In this lesson, I'll tell you about using slice command of AutoCAD 3D. So let's first start with this geometry. So here we have a sphere and also a surface. In order to cut this sphere into two parts so that the surface makes the cutting plane, we can use slice command. The slice command can be found on solid editing panel of home tab. So here we have this slice command. Let's click on it. Now let's move on to the geometry which you want to cut. So in this case, we want to cut this sphere. So let's click on it and press enter. And now you'll notice that we have plenty of options on command line to select from. So currently we want to make this surface as the slicing plane. So for that, select surface from the options of command line and directly click on the surface. Now the object has been sliced into two different parts. Now the command line prompts you to select the part which you want to retain. So if you want to retain any specific part, for example, let's say that we want to retain the lower part, then click on the lower side of this geometry. Or if you want to retain the upper part, then click on upper part of the geometry. But if you want to retain both the parts, then directly press enter because both is selected as default. So I'll select both. Now press enter. And here we have the divided geometry. Although it might not look like anything happened here, but now let me first show you what the slicing plane is here. So right now this green plane is completely passing this sphere, and this is the slicing plane, and it has divided the sphere into two parts. So if I now select the topmost part of the sphere, it will be selected separately, and we can directly erase it as well. So let's erase it, and let's erase the surface also. And here we have the sliced geometry in this way. Now let's move on to the second geometry which we have here. So here we again have a 3D geometry, and we can use the slice command to cut parts in this geometry. So for that, let's zoom it, and now let's go to slice command again. Now select the geometry and press enter. Now we have again multiple options. We have already seen surface, so we'll not use surface. Instead, I'll select 3 points option. So here we have this 3 points option. Let's select this 3-point option. Now you need to specify 3 points exactly on this geometry, and the geometry will be divided in such a way that a plane formed when joining the 3 points will become the slicing plane. Let's now click at this point, midpoint, then the second midpoint, and for the third one, I'll click at this extreme point. Now we have selected all the 3 points. We have now another option here, whether we want to keep the both sides or we want to remove any desired side. So let's say that we only want to keep this side. So I'll click at this side. And now when we orbit our geometry, you'll notice that the half of the geometry has been removed. And since we have selected this first and second and third point, so a plane which joins these 3 points will be created, the imaginary plane, and it will divide the geometry. Now let's press Ctrl Z to return back to original geometry, and we'll use other options as well. So let's now go to slice and select the geometry and press enter. Now we have some options here like XY, YZ and ZX plane, and we also have a UCS here. So if you want to directly slice the geometry with the help of UCS, you can select these options. For example, let's say that we want to slice the geometry halfway using the horizontal plane that passes from this YZ plane. For that, we can directly click on this YZ plane. Now all we need to do is specify a point on YZ plane. We already know that the YZ plane will be completely horizontal, and it may pass from any of these points starting from this point to this point. So we can specify any point in between these 2 points, and the object will be sliced from there. So I've selected this point, and now let's press enter. And now when we click here, you'll notice that we have an object on the lower side and also on an upper side, and the slicing plane was completely horizontal. In a similar way, we can select other slicing planes for cutting this geometry. We can use this slice command for the spherical geometry of this case as well. So there was no restriction on this case as well. So let's go to the slice command, select this object, press enter, and now let's select XZ plane or ZX plane and specify a point on this geometry. In this case, I'll specify the center. And now press enter. And now when you click you'll see that it has got two different parts. Now in this case, the XZ plane was completely vertical, which is parallel to the back plane or which is parallel to this plane. So the slicing plane in this case has divided its geometry in such a way that it cuts the sphere vertically. And here we have the sliced geometry. So this was all about slice command. In the next lesson, I'll tell you about interfere and separate command.